Poca Maria. Today is March 12th, and this is going to be our third lesson on how to program computers using Python. So I'm going to open up my browser. As you've seen before, I'm going to type my compiler. I've already covered my compiler with you, so I'm not going to get into details today. I'm just going to click on Python, and I'm going to erase this over here. The topic that I have for today is very interesting. It's very cool, and you're going to learn how to allow the code to make decisions. Oftentimes, you write a program, and within that program, it's got to be some sort of algorithm that has to decide whether to do one thing versus to do something else. So I'm going to write up here. We're going to call this making decisions in Python. This is also called conditionals. Okay, and this is part 1. That's going to be a part 2. So you have learned to create a variable. So we're going to create a variable here right now called number. And we're going to assign a value to this variable. We're going to assign 5. So this is a number 5, not a string 5, and it's being assigned to this variable called number. And the variable is a space in memory where this value is kept, okay, in the memory of the computer. So we're going to write something like this: if number and then we're going to use two equal signs, which means if number is equal to, okay, let's say 5. So let me stop here. So this is a construct in Python. It starts with the word if. So when you start with the word if, you're going to write a number of lines that basically are going to create different ways of dealing with the code. Okay, so the value and the variable number right now is 5. So we're going to say, well, if the value is 5, we're going to do something. If the value is greater than 5, we're going to do something else. If the value is less than 5, we're going to do something totally different. Okay, that's what we're going to do here right now. We're going to let I'm going to show you how this is going to play out. So we start by saying if. If is a command in Python. Number is making reference to the variable name, number. When you see two equal signs, that means that you are comparing one thing to another. It doesn't mean that you are assigning a value to something. It means that you're just comparing. Whereas when you see one single equal sign, you're actually assigning a value to a particular variable. So that's the difference. One equal sign, you're assigning a value to a variable. You're putting a value into a variable. When you have two equal signs, you're basically comparing something. In this case, we're comparing the value in the variable number with the number 5. So if number equals 5, I'm just going to have the computer print this is, or the value is equal to 5. Okay, just to keep it simple. So this is one option. And then if you have like multiple options of how things could happen, instead of saying if, again, you're going to say elif. So you're going to write it this way: elif, which basically is a contraction, else plus if. But that's how the language works. So you got to memorize this, okay? So instead of just writing another if statement like this, when you have statements that are part of the same analysis, the first one you start with an if, and the next ones you start with elif. So it's el like that, elif. Same thing I say, elif number is greater than, this is the sign for greater, right? If number is greater than 5, observe that at the end of each of these statements, because the statement is not complete, there's going to be another line of code, then you have to end that statement with colon, these two dots over here, okay? On this line here, for example, that's the end of this block of code that begins with if. It ends right over here. So because it ends over here, you don't need to put colon here, all right? But since we're starting another line of code, another if statement, if you will, then you have to end that line with colon. And when you hit enter, that's going to bring the cursor right where it should be. Observe that there's indentation here, so the cursor is not here in the beginning of the line. The cursor is tabbed 4 spaces into that line, and that's how Python works. You have to be very careful with where you begin writing your code on each line, because if it is sometimes it's starting in the beginning of the line, sometimes that line of code is part of another line of code, so it starts indented, okay? All it does is to show you that this print statement, because it is indented, it's part of this if statement right here. Now we have an elif statement that ends here, so the other part of this same statement is going to go indented right here. And we're just going to print a similar message. We're going to say, in quotes, because this is a string that we're printing, we're going to say the value is greater than 5. Okay. And then we're going to do another if statement. We're going to write just like we wrote this one, elif or elif number is less than 5 colon. We're going to print in quotes the value is less than 5. This is just as an example. We could just write anything we want. Okay, so look at this here. What is this doing? This block of code here is going to analyze the value contained in the variable named number. Okay, and we have defined that variable up here. We could have done something like instead of having 5 here, we just could have said none, because you know that there's no value. But I want to give it a value. I want to allow the program to decide what message to print. So let's leave 5 here. So if I run the program by pressing this button over here, look at what's going to happen. It's going to print the value is equal to 5. Why? Because the value of number is 5 right now. Let's say, for example, that I change this value to 6 now. What's going to happen? We're going to press here to run the program, and it's going to print the value is greater than 5. So instead of printing this line here, it's printing this line right over here. See? And what if we put 3? What is it going to do? We're going to run the program, and it says the value is less than 5. So this code is analyzing the contents of this variable number. Anytime I change the value of this variable number, a different message is going to be printed out accordingly. That's pretty cool. So what if we do like -1? Which one do you think is going to print? Let's see. It says the value is less than 5, which is true. -1 is less than 5. And that's it. That's an example of using a conditionals or a decision structure to make decisions in Python. In this particular example, we did that with numbers. In the next video, we're going to do that using strings. Just note that the message that we are printing on the screen is just a message so you can understand, what the code structure is doing. Okay, and it's basically saying what kind of value that is. But that's it, just so you understand it. Okay, so if I were to put here one last time 100 and I click run, it says the value is greater than 5. Yes, because 100 is greater than 5. Okay, that is it. So this is a structure that you have to memorize how to do. You start with an if statement followed by a variable name, and then you're going to use something called a logical operator. So this is a logical operator, which means equal. This is a logical operator, which means greater than. And this is a logical operator, which means less than. And that's how we compare things and make decisions in Python. Till the next video.